Thank you for listening to the Piloways podcast. My name is Alex Vidalis. The Piloways podcast is a podcast that focuses on artistry, technology, community, and commerce, and specifically the creativity that is required of one to thrive and survive in those worlds. We focus primarily, but not exclusively, on the DMV-based artists and musicians and business types and comedians, like on today's episode with comedian Russ Green. Russ Green's story touches on all the points that we love to talk about on the Piloways podcast. And, you know, if you ever want to pass this podcast on to your friends and explain to them what it's about and, you know, what you could do to support the podcast, it's give us more stories like this. It's the story of a man who was unemployed for some time, who still chose to follow his passion to fulfill himself. You know, it's a man who had to support a special needs and an autistic daughter. And I did this man a disservice by not uploading this episode sooner. And Mr. Russ Green, I'm terribly sorry. And I hope that we can work together on something because, again, you know, besides this, because I'm very, very sorry that I didn't upload this sooner. Your story is a great story. And it's the kind of stories we want to talk about more often on the Piloways podcast. Why? Because we truly believe that by listening to Russ Green's story, you as an artist or you as a community member will then be further embedded with his success. And then you will perhaps learn lessons from his successes and failures.
I don't know, it's kind of lonely living in a hoarder house.
Well, it's because
it's isolating.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like space is totally co-opted. You know, I think I didn't have a hoarder
There's no
house.
space.
Yeah, there's no space for anything.
There's no such thing as space. That's the thing.
Piles of stuff.
Like, okay, so I'm checking out all your books to see Bill Hicks. You know what I mean? I'm like,
right.
And Delaney, and that's John Delaney. I see a lot of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited, right? Johnny Cash even is cool.
Thanks.
Right? But when I see books, I get agitated.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Because my dad has books everywhere.
Yeah. No, I had a friend when I went over to his house for band practice. His dad had just a gajillion books, but they weren't dirty. You know, they were all very well maintained and very meticulously cared for. And I asked him, I was like, you know, this is just amazing. He was like, really? He's like, it's not. And I was like, why isn't it? And he's like, who gives a shit? And I was like, oh, okay.
I remember my friend one time. I had him over at the house, which is a rarity because I was the only one who wanted to expose the truth of it to my friends. My brother and sister's strategy was keep everyone in the dark. Don't invite anybody over. My mom was very much a part of this philosophy as well. But I was like, I don't want to be like stigmatized by this. This is not really my bag. This is my dad's shit, right? So I would bring my friends over, and they would find random things. Like one time, my friend found a paycheck,
like piles of stuff.
Like
piles. A paycheck,
an actual paycheck. And my dad is a psychiatrist. Like he makes decent money.
Yeah, so it was a goodly amount of money.
So he's like, "Is this a paycheck?" And I'm like, "Yeah." When is it dated? He's like, "It's like 4 years old." I'm like, "Well, I guess he lost it." You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do?
We should probably say your name for the podcast.
Oh yeah, I'm Russ Green.
I'm joined here by comedian Russ Green from Homegrown Hilarity. Thanks for joining us on the Piloways podcast, sir.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Anytime. I definitely just want to hear you tell me more. Let's give people a little bit of context about how you came to be a comedian, what made you decide to be a comedian. And I don't mean like, you don't have to make it hilarious or anecdotal, but I definitely like the framework that you've been kind of leading us through, which is like, here are some of the building blocks of what brought me here. Here's like, tell us a little bit about your father, a little bit about your mother. That was really good stuff.
Well, I was very unhappy. A few years ago, I started comedy in 2011. And I had everything I thought I was supposed to have in life. I have a beautiful wife, children, a mortgage, a family sedan, 401k, but none of it amounted to anything that I thought was, I don't know, fulfilling in a regard, And I just found myself very, very much kind of just going through the motions. And I was walking. I had an off night, which is what fathers speak about a lot. when the wife and mother has just been like, okay, I've had enough of you. Go somewhere tonight. And I was walking down the street, like free, liberated to do whatever I want. And I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
There's just too many choices. You're like, what am I supposed to do with this time? I could be like sitting here, like holding a kid in my lap, changing a diaper. But now I'm on the street with single women. I don't know what to do next. Like how much can I really drink?
Sure.
And as I was trying to figure that out along U Street, this bouncer stopped me and he's like, hey man, it's a free comedy show here tonight. You got to come by. And I'm like, all right, comedy. Like that's always like, it rings in your ears in a certain way. So I went up the stairs and this woman I'll never forget, Tony Minor, she goes by Chicago Slim. She's having an open mic that she ran monthly, Slim's comedy show. And when I walked up, she said, are you a comedian? And I was like, no, but I really want to be. And she's like, well, if you have a good time tonight, come back next month. We're doing a show again, and I'll let you perform. And that, she should have never said that to me because it motivated me in a way that I'd never been. Like I had an outlet. And plus people were really like bombing terribly. Mm-hmm. And like I was talking to you about earlier, if you see somebody bomb, it can affect you one of two ways. You can be really uncomfortable or you can be really inspired. And I was inspired, But on the whole like track that we were talking about earlier, like my life has been a lot of, I don't know, I don't describe it, chaotic in a regard. My mom and dad are very like, how do you say it? They say opposites attract, but like crazies make babies. And that's what my mom and dad decided to do.
Is that true? I've never heard that. Crazies make babies?
It's a theory I've come up with.
That is good. I like it.
My mom and dad are special people in the regard that my dad's like this. Is black militant redundant at this point? Like, is it? My dad's like this, like black militant psychiatrist, and my mom is this like revolutionary, like independent woman, like dream chaser / school teacher. Mm-hmm. And they came together one night and made children, and then figured out the rest from there. Mm-hmm. And they brought with them like their whole bag of issues, which is like my dad's this compulsive hoarder, and my mom's like this like compulsive gambler. So she has this like instant gratification, like lottery mentality.
Well, and what's interesting too is, and from an armchair psychologist, area, that actually does tickle both sides. Like the idea of there's an OCD tie between lottery, expecting like the world to change in a moment, and the hoarding, which is I have to keep this because it may become important to me. Like, yes, thank God I kept this. It actually kind of ties into the same thing. It tickles the same area, I think.
It's true. We've been having this really shitty weather. Are we cursing on this?
Oh yeah,
podcast?
You can say anything you want.
We've had great. Fuck yeah.
Damn.
We've been having this really shitty weather in DC, and my wife's like, we should go get salt and a shovel and supplies. I'm like, let's just go to my dad's house, and we'll grab. It's like going to Walmart. You can find anything there, and the joy that overcomes him when you find something of use is incredible. But it's two-sided because he's also not really willing to let it go in a lot of regards. Like sometimes we'll just acquire things from the house, like a brand new stereo that's never been used, and we'll plug it up to our system. And he'll come over and be like, nice sound system. I'm like, you got good taste. Yeah, that's how it works out.
So how was that life growing up though, with the mom and the dad in that sort of way? Like paint me a word picture a little bit of like growing up in that style.
Long way to your house in the wintertime. When the frost hits, you never know what you'll find along the road anyway. Even on the most sunshiny day, weather is only a matter of mind. Yeah. winter time. In the snowdrift, the stick shift that starts to slide along the road. Anyway, even on this most sunshiny day, a trip to your place, a perilous drive. The winter time. And the frost comes over me like a lesson that's never so friendly to my jaw that I never saw coming. And I wait through the winter and pray for the thaw. To your house in the winter time, staying stuck in gear, steady, slow, 25. Feel the wheels start to go. What the hell did I know? Yeah. Trip to your place is a perilous drive. Weather is only a matter of mind. To think I thought you were a friend of mine. This winter time, oh, it's the winter time.
That was the Grand Candy with Wintertime. And I don't know why I said it that way, but I said wintertime. And I'm feeling a little bit better after I got that off my chest. And I apologize for kind of, I don't know, was that a scolding tone? I don't even know. But let me say this. Another thing that the podcast is looking for is a co-host. I'm looking for a comedian from the DMV area who thinks that they could add some color and some commentary, and I guess color commentary. That is ridiculous. Like a color commentary person. But there you have it. I'm basically saying like someone who could add some personality beyond me, because it's like a goddamn vacuum in here. I'm in a fucking basement. Although you're going to hear some news pretty soon about some digs that we're going to be recording in from time to time above the Bossa Bistro. Over in the Adams Morgan neighborhood, which we're really excited about. Now, I feel like I need to explain myself. The Russ Green episode, and most of the episodes that don't get uploaded within a timely fashion, really the biggest factor, aside from me being at fault, is apathy. You know, you get into this cycle where you wonder, like, why am I doing this? And I'm stressed to a certain point because I want to make sure it's not my own ego. Like, is it just my own voice talking back to me on the internet that I enjoy? And keep in mind, I don't actually listen to this show on the internet, which is probably bad of me, but I do listen to the show at least 2 to 3 times, just for the people who wonder, didn't he hear that mistake? Yeah, I probably did, but then it just, eventually I just got so used to it that I left it in. I guess that's apathy again. Anyway, apathy and ego are enemies. And, I think in that spirit, I'm not going to apologize for not uploading these shows anymore. I'm just going to get them uploaded. We have about 4 or 5 more to go, and then I actually have 2 more interviews scheduled, including with a band that you're going to hear a little later, Honest Halloway. We're gonna do an interview with them, hopefully really, really soon. Let's get back to this interview with Russ Green, and again, if I didn't state it clearly, because I've said like so many things in this break. If I didn't state it clearly enough, we're looking for a co-host, a DMV-based comedian or actor. Actually, we're looking for anyone, a personality, someone who thinks that they could definitely be a great fit, and we would love to have you on the show. Maybe it'll be a bunch of rotating people, but send us out. Tell us, give us your suggestions, tweet us, and email us. You can tweet us at @PilotWaves, and you can send us an email at culture@pilotwaves.com. Let's get back to our interview with Russ Green.
How do you describe chaos? It's weird. My mom loves Disney movies and any musical. And a Disney movie's whole mantra is Like you can sing a song to overcome any like trials in life. And so she was always singing or always watching a movie or always trying to take us to some theatrical production. And we, you know, we endeared ourselves to her very quickly. You know, she was a stay-at-home mom for the first 10 years of like my life. So she was always there, like baking cookies and making like candy apples and doing arts and crafts projects. And my dad was never there, you know, as a psychiatrist, you know, living that pager life. Like he was always on call. So it's easy to kind of like, you know, have an allegiance. Mm-hmm. And so our mom's thing was whenever she needed something, she'd throw this like amazing guilt trip, like wondrous guilt trip. And my dad's thing was like, hey, he's just like the insufferable asshole. Like he was just like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing all these things for you kids and you're so ungrateful. I'm working all day, you know. And you kind of have to find your space in the middle. And I guess my thing with my siblings was it's us against the world. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, when you're in that situation, you really don't know like who to trust.
Sure.
So we developed like this allegiance to one another, like we were like a military or like a fraternity, if you will. And we decided that like what the run was going to be, you know, when we had to eat, you know, who was going to do like which delivery, you know what I mean? Or we'd go on these raids, if you will, to go find change so we could like scrounge it together to get like a pizza or Chinese food or something like that. Like on the whole delivery, man, too. I have a real affinity for delivery people because that's like 90% of my meals.
I was telling Russ earlier about how I delivered for a short amount of time. Longtime fans of the podcast will know that I did kebab delivery for a short amount of time, and I was describing it to him as delivering happiness, and you know it actually is a wonderful gig. And you made this great observation about how when it's bad weather outside, that's just instantly when you decide.
That's the only time when I want it. I know I could be cooking. I know there's other ways that I could possibly find a meal. But unless someone suffers to bring it to me, I'm not going to enjoy it as much. That's my whole mentality about it.
But don't feel like we have to rush to get there.
No,
you know,
I'm good.
do you know what I mean? Like, we don't actually have to immediately say the thing that I just asked.
We're here, Alex. We're going on a journey together.
We're just on a journey together.
We're drinking beer. We're talking shit. It's a great time.
How do you like the Flying Dog Paleo?
I like it because it's built. Beer has this like filling aspect to it, like it's a meal when you don't have one.
Right.
Right.
I had this I don't want to say it was an eating disorder, but I had this aversion to eating for a while. Like for about a year, I didn't care for it. It kind of annoyed me. Anything. Like
even Cinnabons?
Yeah, even Cinnabons, pretzels. Actually, the one thing that I really did enjoy were tuna salad sandwiches, like that,
which are awesome.
I love them.
You don't need to say any more on that. Those are incredible.
But what I love to do is I love to go get a bottle of red wine, and then I wouldn't eat anything, and then I would drink one glass of red wine, and it felt like there was a Powerball in my stomach. Where I was like, and I didn't have to eat because then I had like a stomach ache, you know.
So you're European, you're saying?
Oh, sure, yeah. That's what I like to think. I was very continental at the time.
you were. All you need to do was
have you had the lean years of your comic career yet? Like, have you? Because I know you said you already had a wife and a family and kids.
Yeah, I have a wife and family. Like that's my whole thing.
So you never were like living in the one bedroom or the efficiency apartment, struggling in New York City, trying to be a comic or anything.
You know what was my struggle was convincing my wife that this is something that would be like contributing to the household and not just fulfilling my narcissistic fantasy.
How do you do that? Because that's one of the toughest things for married people to do. Talk about that.
You just can't do it. You can't convince someone.
So you're saying there's no hope?
That there's hope, but it's tied to dollars and cents, right? And you can't be a fledgling comic, which is, you know, not making any money, jumping from stage to stage, going into bars with lots of single women. And you can't go to that from a 6-figure salary and balancing mortgages and multiple young faces. You know what I mean? Like that's people, little bodies have to eat. Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the day, you know, it's really about, there was so much responsibility on her to manage the household and very little responsibility on me financially. Right. So in that regard, this is a passionate pursuit. And to some degree, I'll credit a young artist I just met, Sheila D. Yeah. She was like,
can you say that name again?
Sheila D. Yeah, she's out of Baltimore. She's she's an artist first, but she's got this hunger and this drive that's incredible. And she made the statement that part of being an artist is being selfish.
Yeah.
and realizing that you have to be like, fuck what everybody else wants.
Yep.
I want to do me.
Yep.
Because I have to explore this. If I don't, I'm always going to regret it. And I kind of resigned myself to that. So in the day, I would try to be this amazing stay-at-home dad, like my newborn son. And in the evening, I would run the streets and kind of talk about it. And so I developed like this whole like neo Bill Cosby, like CK kind of thing, where I was this embittered husband because marriage is like it's like the ultimate bait and switch. And I would
really
be like,
is.
and then I would be like this like pseudo like wannabe super dad when I was just really just a decent father. You know what I mean? Like everybody kind of praises and lauds like guys for taking care of their kids, which is what you're supposed to do, like Chris Rock said. But even the smallest sign of me doing something like pushing a stroller down the street would get like rave reviews from strangers. You know what I mean? Like this woman stopped me. I'll never forget this. Woman stopped me in the street and she goes, "That's right, brother. Way to do your thing." And I was like, what? She was like, "It's about time you stepped up to the plate." And I was like, is this me? What?
It's such a backhand. Well, one, it's funny because it's not a backhanded compliment to you because she doesn't know you.
She has no idea who I am.
But it's just such a blatantly backhanded racist comment, which is, it just is, right? It has to be.
I don't know.
Unless she means all men, like, oh, way to go for all mankind,
It's funny.
Up to the father plate.
I don't know how racist it was because it was coming from a black woman, but in the same regard, I think racism is beyond like skin color. I think it's just like a perception.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And certainly seeing me as like a youngish black male with his daughter or her perceived daughter. Like it could have been anybody. It could have been my niece, could have been like a babysitting, could have been like, I'm a baby walker, right?
Kid.
I'm not a dog walker. I'm just walking around babies in strollers.
Oh, so
and it just really aggravated me. And so I kind of emboldened myself to be about the kids. You know what I mean? Like the best times of my life have been when I'm unemployed. And I was unemployed for like 18 months, raising my daughters. And it's interesting because, there's always like an extra layer to things to make it even more like grave and ridiculous that you're in a situation. So my daughter's autistic. So she needs a lot of attention and she needs a lot of, handling and, a concerted effort to like really help her develop. And you can't be, a person that, is not generating income and expect to be able to meet the needs of your daughter who's special needs. You know what I mean? Like you can be there for her in the regard that you're present and she's going to want someone that's hands-on for her the whole time. But you can't be the person that's like, oh, I'm just going to just run the streets and do jokes all night.
But what about, because I agree in, because I'm chicken and I can't actually say that I agree or disagree with your selfish statement, but I'll just, take the very brave stance of saying I see the perspective. And actually I do agree with it to a certain extent because being an artist does require a certain degree of selfishness. It just does. Yeah. But, the great artists of our day, and I'm using air quotes for those at home, the great artists of our day or of like the past, were selfish to a point of like self-destruction, like absolute, detriment to their families and their souls even at times. How do you, where do you rank that? Do you think that's just a thing that happened then? Do you think it's bullshit? Or do you think that has to exist at some point or at some level now?
Every great man is a really shitty dad. I think that's the best way to define it. Like in this journey of self-discovery, like to do comedy and being, going from a management consultant to, which is very much like a title, air quotes. You know what I mean?
We used to use the bring, bring. It means air quotes.
All adjectives are air quotes anyway. Like it's going from that to being unemployed. There's like you have to explain yourself a lot to your partner. And that's what like helped me really define what I was going through and what my wife was experiencing. It was like, this is a partnership and I'm doing this alone, right? Like, damn, though you washed the dishes and you vacuumed the rug and you fed the kids today. Like, we have to pay these bills. And you're not doing that. You're handling your bills, which is fine. But, it's like I have, at the time, 3 children. And I very much felt that from her. You know what I mean? And I kind of like looked to my idols And my dad, being the militant that he is, like, he kind of charged this whole Malcolm X, Martin Luther King kind of thing. And those are like my two heroes. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were really shitty dads because you cannot be an awesome dad if you're never around.
That was Honest Holloway with Psycho Bitch. Very excited about the interview coming up with those guys. I can't wait to get it on the schedule. You know, actually, as I said, that's a great thing to say, right? Can't wait to get it on the schedule. That sounds like it's real firm, doesn't it? But you know, I don't have any reason to think that they're not going to be on the show, so we're excited. Keep listening for that. I'm a big fan of that. that song. But if you haven't seen the music video, boys and girls, and actually, I would say if you're a boy or a girl, you shouldn't be watching it. You need to be definitely an adult, because it is an adult video. Go to probably Vimeo and look up Honest Holloway on the Psycho Bitch. It's a great video, great piece of film. That's a great way to describe it. Anyway, on today's show, you should see the notes from today's show. I was actually very worried that this was going to be a very morbid show, because I was feeling, as I got up this morning, I was feeling just, in a bad place, because I had this bad experience with a booker downtown, and this is another thing that the Pilot Waves is going to put out there that we need. We're looking for a venue to put on a couple different events. One, we need a place to display some art. I would say probably a show around 20 to 30 participants. We're looking for a place in December, which is a very short time away. We thought we had something, but it kind of fell through. Just put it out there. We're looking for venues and places to put on events, specifically Pilot Waves, but we need help. Like, this isn't something, and I keep running into this again and again. People bullshitting me, or people telling me that, we have a deal and then we don't, or then throwing some bullshit $3,000 freaking, deposit down, how's that helping anyone? If I had $3,000, probably, I'd be flying around in a time machine, no, that's ridiculous. I thought this was going to be a terrible show, but I actually, I'm very pleased. It's a little bit more upbeat than I thought. This was actually the original title I was going to try to use. The Ramblings of a Madman, or How I Stopped Worrying and Learned to Love Oblivion. And this situation with this booker frustrated me. I thought he was going to let myself and my friend Adam put on some shows, and it just doesn't look like it's going to work because of various reasons. And I felt like he was kind of giving me the runaround. And I feel like you get the runaround from a lot of people, and then you start to sweat it. You like, is it me? Is it us? Is it the Pilot Waves? I don't know. Is it one of the 100 of us, which is about our listenership, about 100 of you. There's about 100 of you out there. It's enough to fill the venue, which actually takes me to why I'm not feeling as apathetic, which we're going to talk about at the very end of today's show. So let's get back to the very last part of the interview with Russ Green, and we'll talk to you more at the end of the show.
Because you cannot be an awesome dad if you're never around. You know what I mean? And I look back at like the perception of the two of them, where people will see pictures of them like holding their kids in their lap, or having a side conversation, and they're enjoying it, but they know it's just that moment. And that's the thing that I try to do, is my resolution. Like my resolve is to make those little tiny moments the most, right? Like embrace those little. If my son is again pulling the knives out of the dishwasher, the sharpest knives, I try to understand that he's curious about it. Or if my daughter is again, taking cups of water up and down the stairs and dripping them on the staircase the whole way, I try to make the most out of that. I have to recognize that, she's not responsible for her life. I am. You know what I mean? So she's supposed to enjoy it the most she can. Yeah, like I'm hypersocial, right? I enjoy moments. Like I just met you, right? We talked 2 days ago via email, and a friend introduced us, right? But you could be like some crazy person, right? But I don't know that. All I know is this, in this moment we're sharing now, in 5 to 20 to hour that we have, that's all we have. I want to make the most of that moment, right? And I think that's the same thing about what comedy is, right? Like, okay, you're saying all of this time in my 40-hour week, which is how we define ourselves here in the States, right? Sucks. So I'm going to dedicate an hour to make certain that I have a good time, right?
And other people too, because if you're doing it on the stage, right.
So if you're going to grant me license with that 5 minutes, we're going to have a lot of fun, right? Because I'm going to tell you everything that I'm thinking, and I'm hoping it's going to resonate. And even if it doesn't, I'm going to make it. I'll let you know why it's so.
That ties in so directly of like what we try to hypothesize about on the podcast, which is, if it's really about the audience and it's really about the moment that you guys are in, can you put so much into that you will find it actually be fruitful for you in a fiscal way? Have you found it to be like, does it pay the bills? Are you able to put in the effort that rewards you in a cash way?
My comedy money is my fun money. Like it pays for beer and meals, right? Certainly with like Homegrown Hilarity, we developed a product because we wanted to be marketable. So we created a comedy album. We created we're still editing a DVD. We have comedy sketches, things that people can plug into. because we wanted to make it profitable, but it's not going to handle my mortgage. You know what I mean? Certainly not. But in the regard that it fulfills me, yes, right? Like that's where I'm like, the first time I made money from comedy was when I first started. This Gigi Wong, she used to host this show at this little shitty bar on 9th and U Street, right? I think Queen Makita's.
Okay, I was like, I think it's still there.
No, it's not. It's not. It's so sad. It's not there anymore. It's literally like the Cheers for comics, right? And everybody would come there and do incredibly long sets, like 20, 30 minutes, for no reason at all. It's just for each other, right? But you really found yourself in those moments, right? Like you're like, why am I listening to this? This is too much for any person to share. But you could hear anything in those sets. Like my best friend in comedy, Glow. She shared the story about being molested by her cousin, right? Or someone shared a story about being abused, by an uncle. Or someone shared a story about not knowing who their dad was. You know what I mean?
Hey, join the club.
Like those things are groundbreaking.
Sure. For
a stranger.
Yeah.
Right? I've never met you.
You're talking about therapy is what you're talking about. Yeah, that's not even comedy.
It's beyond therapy,
though.
Like
it's transcendence. You you guys are sharing things at a level in a performance way. That's art. I mean, that's art. It's not just comedy. It's art, right?
But what you were talking about was feeling something in a very physical way, right? Like, and money is this, like, I don't know. It's kind of like it's something we've made manifest that has value because we've decided it has value.
No, I agree with you. No, I'm with you on that.
Right. And like, I would never like compare myself to anybody that's great, but like Bob Marley always said, people would always ask him in interviews, "Oh, you're making money now, and you're clearly rich." And he was like, "Well, what is rich? You know what I mean? What is that? What's the purpose of rich?"
Right.
I'd rather just have my family and be able to make music and be able to touch people. And he, spoke about like Jah, which is, God. And he's just talked about like why it's important for him to do this, because he's been given this divine gift. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with you. And I think we can, because there's no disrespect to the gifts in any way. When we're talking about people getting paid better, it's really because we see the value being taken in other ways. We see other people making money off your value,
right,
and our value, and we want that money. It's not. I'm not trying to take anything. I'm not saying like give me other money. I'm saying I want the money that's going in the pockets of people who are making money off your talent.
Yeah.
And you can either give it to us because it's fair, or we're going to come take it. So do you think that there is because in my opinion, there's a lack of what you're talking about, which is people sharing like true transcendent moments.
Yeah.
And I, as much as it would pain me to co-opt something as beautiful as that for money, if there is a need for something in the universe, right, and you have access to that thing, do you ever think about putting those things together, like trying to create those special moments, not just comedy, but creating special moments of connection?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, one of my best friends said, he's trying to pitch me a multi-level marketing scheme, as we always call them. Anything that's not the status quo is a scheme, right? And he's like, "Russ, you should do this because your family's so marketable." And I'm like, "My family's marketable?" He's like, "Yeah, your wife's beautiful. Your kids are so like fun and excitable. You know what I mean?
Thank God I don't have
and like you're
ugly
weird and funny, right? Like, yeah, sorry for you Ugmo wives.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You really lame, dumb kids, dumb boring.
Kids, right? Your kids have no quirks about them.
Exactly.
And I don't know. I've been very guarded about sharing my children and sharing my wife with the world. I had a really bad experience with social media where I posted this picture of my kid who was like super happy on the swings, and someone took that, made a meme out of it, and sent it all over the world. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, you just took my child, you know what I mean, and put him out on front, on Front Street with strangers, with perverts. You know what I mean? Like Aaron Magruder talks about this. He just walked away from Boondocks, which is, Aaron Magruder's like my hero. You know what I mean? And he said, what people don't understand is I'm not just walking away from characters that I've developed. Like, these are my family members. You know what I mean? Like, these are people that I know and love. And certainly, Cosby has done it. And, CK's doing it now, talking about his family. But if I'm going to do it, it's got to be respectful of them in a very much an admirable way. Like I admire that they've been such a part of my life and influenced me so much and have been so special to me that what I have to share about them is significant. Like I don't talk about anybody that's not significant in my act. And that's why all I talk about is my kids. You know what I mean? All I talk about is my wife, because that's what's important to me. You know, I don't want to just give that away unless what I'm giving you is so unique and so like wondrous an experience that you're going to like want, you know, to be a part of it. Like you're going to help me on this journey. Right. Like you're going to know that my daughter's autistic. You're going to know that my 4-year-old is a smart ass and she's a mirror image of me. And she's insufferable because I'm insufferable. You're going to know my son is like my greatest like joy because I've had the experience of not having another dude in the house. You know what I mean? For the past 7 years, like I can talk about things with another dude that I can't share with the little girls, you know, or with my wife. Like, yeah, that's what happens when you touch it. You know what I mean? Like those certain like funky odors that I have to experience there.
So it sounds like your family is a great part of what feeds you creatively.
Yeah.
Put it out in there in the community, and let's wrap up with this question.
Yeah.
What can the community and what can, because obviously we can buy tickets and come to your shows, and,
yeah.
and we promise we'll do that. But what else can the community and the world give to you to keep feeding you creatively, keeping you happy? And you know, what else can we do?
I just think there's so much energy out there. Human beings are energy. Like we're souls. We share things with one another. And one of the things that I love is, you know, on social media or those little special moments with people when they're like, this joke that you wrote like made my whole day better. Right? Or you talking about, you know, your struggles with like being a new dad, like I really identify with that. And that motivates me. You know what I mean? Or like, I did this rant last year after the like Trayvon Martin verdict, which is interesting that you say it like that, right? Because Trayvon Martin wasn't on trial. You know what I mean? Zimmerman was on trial. But we talk about the Trayvon Martin verdict because his life was on trial. Like they're talking about his as a young person.
I mean, it's called the Trayvon Martin verdict.
Right. Like
it's
crazy.
Verdict, yeah.
It's crazy that it's thought about that way. But I did this rant on Facebook about it. And like everybody for the next month wanted to talk to me about it. And I just liked that I had that like recognition. You know what I mean? Like you recognize that this is something that I felt because I have a son, right? And you recognize that what happened was shameful, right? And that there's something more that you wanted some justice in that, but you realize that there's something greater we have to do. And so that's what resonates with me. Like people that want to be, that are moved by something that I've done. Like Kanye West did this incredible interview that no one talked about with BBC, where he's like, sometimes I'm not trying to make a hit record. Sometimes I'm just trying to move you. I just want you to feel something by what I'm doing. And that's all I'm here to do. You know what I mean? I want you to feel it. I want you to walk away like, ouch, or ooh. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, man, he's right. You know what I mean? Like, or I agree. You know what I mean? There's something more I can do with my time. And that's why I dedicate myself to Homegrown Hilarity. That's why I'm out on the stages every night, or as much as I can. And that's why I sell tickets to shows, because I know that you want to experience a real joy. And if I can provide that for you, I'd love to, you know?
No, that's great, Russ. We really appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming on here, and thanks for speaking from the heart. It was really a good experience.
Thanks for having me, Alex. I really appreciate it, brother.
So this is just a straight up love letter to Mittenfields. That was Mittenfields. The name of the song is Goliath, FTW, For the Win. Or is it, some people use the FTW, Fuck the World? Not this guy. This guy's all smiles today, as you've been listening to. So I am hopeful. I am feeling good. And I'll tell you the main reason. I want to give a special love call out to another. I didn't wrap up that last thought. Mittenfields, that's a love letter to you. Come be on my show, please. I love your guys' music. I want to do something together. I want to work on something together. And I feel like I've been chasing you guys around a little bit. Although I didn't go to the last show. Come on, dudes. Be on my show, please. It'll be awesome. And then I also wanted to say, in terms of, my attitude, my smiles, if you will, my smile. Jelly, this is out to you. And, Robert, this is out to you as well. Meeting with you guys reminded me of, why I got into the podcast game, which is ridiculous to say. No, why I'm excited to be in this community. And I think, there's going to be something special coming from the 3 podcasts. And if you don't listen to these 2 podcasts, you should. They are great. The Jellyvision podcast and 10 Things We Always Ask, or 10 Questions We Always Ask. Both of those are on iTunes, unlike this podcast. But check them out because the 3 of us, the 3 shows, are going to put something on, I don't want to say what, in May, and we want your help. So if you're interested in helping out with that, in May, with one of those 3 podcasts, well, actually, we'll all be 3 working together. We probably shouldn't, section off the interns. That seems, less than helpful. This show's gone on too long, and I want to thank everyone who's listened because, allowing me to sort of get all this off my chest has made me sort of reinvigorated. And again, some of the things that we said that we wanted to put out there that we need some venues, we need some comedians, and we need some interactivity. Send us your thoughts at Pilot Waves on the Twitter or culture@pilotwaves on the old school email. Thanks as always for listening to this show, and we'll be seeing you out there.